Today, we are deleting concrete, the second most consumed substance on Earth. We walk on it, we live inside it, and we drive over it every single day without a second thought. But what if, in a single heartbeat, every gram of concrete on the planet simply evaporated? In this video, we are going to dismantle the world's most iconic skylines and watch them as they lose their foundation. How dams and sewers fail, turning our cities into toxic swamps. How trade and travel no longer function and transportation becomes harder. How today's digital world collapses from the phone in your hand to the big data centers. And finally, we'll look at the new reality for the survivors. A world where humanity is forced to shrink back into the limits of the 18th century. It starts with a quake. Imagine you are on the 18th floor of a skyscraper in Dubai or New York. Modern towers are marvels of engineering, but they rely on a specific partnership, a skeleton of reinforced steel bar wrapped in a body of concrete. The concrete acts as the rigid substance that holds everything together, while the steel acts as the flexible material that lets the building bend without breaking. One holds the weight, the other handles the movement. If the concrete vanishes, the steel is suddenly naked. Within seconds, the weight of the furniture, the glass, and the people causes that steel to buckle like a wet noodle. Every skyscraper on Earth would fold in slow motion. The concrete jungle, Whitney Houston mentioned in her song, becomes a graveyard of twisted metal and shattered glass. Talking about New York, millions of tons of debris would choke the streets, making rescue efforts by foot almost impossible. Without concrete stairs or elevator shafts, which are almost always reinforced concrete cores, anyone in a mid-rise building is trapped, staring down at a street level they can no longer reach. But the destruction isn't just in the clouds, it's beneath your feet. 70% of the world's housing is built on concrete slabs. Without them, your house doesn't just drop. The soil beneath it, no longer compacted and held in place, liquefies. Entire suburban neighborhoods would tilt and sink into the mud. Within the first 10 minutes, the very shape of human civilization is flattened. The geometry we learned from the Romans and the Egyptians is rendered useless because the material that allowed us to defy gravity is gone. The initial collapse of buildings would be horrific, but it's the secondary wave that would end the modern era. Let's talk about water. Right now, there are over 50,000 large dams on Earth, like the Hoover Dam or the Three Gorges Dam. These are essentially massive concrete plugs holding back trillions of tons of water. If those plugs vanish, the result isn't a leak, it's an inland tsunami. Massive walls of water would roar down river valleys, erasing every city in their path. Millions would be gone before they even realized the buildings in their own town had collapsed. But even if you survive the flood, the silent killer is waiting in the dark. Our entire sanitation system, the sewers that carry waste away, and the plants that treat our drinking water, is built from concrete pipes and basins. When that concrete disappears, the ground beneath our cities becomes a toxic swamp. Clean water stops flowing instantly. Waste begins to flow into the local environment. Without the discovery of concrete-based filtration and transport, we lose the ability to live in groups larger than a few hundred people. Hospitals, which were once designed to treat patients, would become the most dangerous places on Earth within hours, unable to sterilize equipment or wash away the blood and bacteria of the initial victims. We are catapulted back to the Middle Ages, where cholera and dysentery were more common than a cold. As the sun sets on the first day, the world realizes it's not just the buildings that are gone, it's the power. While we watch the skylines fall, the real death blow to modern life happens silently at the edge of town. Our entire energy grid is anchored in concrete. Think about nuclear power plants. The reactor cores are housed in massive concrete containment buildings designed to stop radiation leaks. If that concrete vanishes, you don't just lose power, you face a global nuclear meltdown scenario on a scale never before imagined. We would be facing hundreds of Chernobyl-style events simultaneously across every continent. Even our clean future collapses. Wind turbines are held up by foundations that go 60 feet deep, consisting of hundreds of tons of reinforced concrete. Without it, these 300-foot giants would topple over in the first gust of wind, turning green energy fields into massive steel scrapyards. Then there's the digital dark age. We think of the cloud as something intangible, but the cloud lives in data centers. These are massive, heavy industrial buildings that require specialized concrete floors to support the weight of thousands of servers. If the concrete floors vanish, the server racks crash into the earth, snapping fiber optic cables and shattering the hardware that holds our collective history. In a world without concrete, there is no delete button because there is no computer to press it on. Your bank account, your cloud-saved memories, and the very blueprints for how to rebuild society would be erased. By the 24-hour mark, the survivors realize they are trapped. We live in a global village, but that village is connected by concrete veins. Think about the highways. We think of them as asphalt, but most major interstates and overpasses rely on concrete supports. When these vanish, the roads turn into disconnected mud pits. Every bridge across the Mississippi or the Thames would be gone, cutting nations in half. Emergency vehicles wouldn't just be slowed down, they would be physically unable to cross the street. Now look at the sky. Aviation dies instantly. Every major airport runway is a massive, multi-layered slab of reinforced concrete. Without it, a 300-ton Boeing 747 cannot land. Its wheels would sink 3 feet into the dirt, causing the plane to cartwheel and explode. Imagine the thousands of planes currently in the air. With nowhere to land safely, the sky itself becomes a source of falling debris. Then, look at the sea. 90% of everything you own, your phone, your clothes, your food, arrived on a container ship. Those ships dock at massive concrete piers. With the piers gone, there is nowhere to offload the world's resources. Global trade doesn't just slow down, it ceases to exist. Each city becomes an isolated island, left to survive on whatever resources are within walking distance. The financial outcome? A total global reset. The value of gold, stocks, and digital currency would vanish, replaced by the only thing that matters, the value of a piece of wood or a hand-fired brick. If humanity survived the first month, what would the new world look like? It would be a world of limits. Without concrete, we lose the ability to build high. We are restricted to the pre-industrial limit. Buildings would rarely exceed 5 stories because the weight of the brick or wood becomes too much for the foundation to handle. The very idea of a metropolis, like Tokyo or New York City, becomes a physical impossibility. We would have to spread out, returning to a world where local is the only thing that matters. Our population would naturally begin to shrink. Without concrete for industrial-scale irrigation and massive grain silos, we can't grow enough food to feed 8 billion people. The most heartbreaking loss, however, might be our history. The pyramids survived because they were stone, but our modern monuments, the Statue of Liberty's base, the Panama Canal, the foundations of the Eiffel Tower, would all be gone. Even our war memorials and bunkers would vanish, leaving the stories of our ancestors to be told only in whatever books didn't get buried in the rubble. We would be a species with a digital memory of greatness, but a physical reality of mud and timber. Concrete was the discovery that allowed us to dream in giant proportions. It gave us the numbers, the finance, and the safety to build a world that defies nature. Without it, we aren't just losing a material, we are losing the foundation of the human story. Concrete was the liquid rock that let us outgrow our ancestors. But today we saw just how quickly that foundation turns back into dust. Let me know in the comments, which part of this alternate reality scares the most? Is it the silent collapse of the grid that keeps our digital memories alive? Or the thought of a world where we never learn to build toward the clouds? Tell me, which piece of our reality should we delete next? What happens to the world if we erase steel and the industrial age it built? Or what if we undiscover electricity and the entire human story goes dark? Our world isn't built on solid ground. It's built on the brilliance of human discovery. Today we saw that if you remove even one layer of that brilliance, the present day dissolves into a ghost of the past. If this journey made you realize how much we owe to the invisible materials around us, make sure to like this video. Subscribe to help us pull the next thread and see which version of reality remains when the structures we trust start to vanish.